don't know who I am, my name is Lydia Tate and I'm one of the Education Support Officers here in Aberdeen City. Some of you may know that I've had the pleasure of talking to a variety of our colleagues across the city over the last few weeks and just have been gathering their thoughts round about health and well-being. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by Karen Gebbie-Smith, who is Deputy Head at Orchard Brae and has been there since opening 3 years ago. This will be very interesting because I'm sure there are very specific questions and things that have had to be addressed in Orchard Brae, which I'm sure that Karen will explore with us for a little bit. So first of all, Karen, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And perhaps I could kick off with the question of just what have you been doing lately to maintain your own health and well-being in the current situation?
Well, hi Lydia, I'm delighted that you've asked me, and I'm head of primary here at Orchard Brae, just for folks to know. But as I say, really privileged that you thought that you might think I would have something to say and to share. This year has been really interesting for all of us, hasn't it? And health and well-being's really been put up there on the map for everybody, and I've really unpicked what does that mean to me. And I suppose I would start by saying I've really changed my perception of health and well-being. It's always underpinned all the work I've done. I've been in special ed for 28 years, I think, and it's always underpinned everything that I've done. But actually this year I've really turned the spotlight on myself and really sat and challenged myself about my own health and well-being. And I've really worked hard to build my own resilience and recognise that one needs to build it. It's not just something that we all have naturally. I think it's something that we need to build and really need to think about and have that mindfulness about doing so. I would say, and let's be really honest here, in the past I kind of engaged in what I would call maybe mindless behaviours. I would come home probably a bit too late, like many. I'd slump on a chair and I'd put Emmerdale on. Usually on +1 because I'd gotten home that late. And I'd put Emmerdale on and I'd say, I just need half an hour to myself watching something mindless that didn't tax my brain. But this year as I say, I've had a change. And now we sit at the table as a family and I try and get home for 6:30, have 6:45, and we all do the cryptic crossword together, which is not a mindless activity at all. It's a very mindful activity. So really I'm kind of using this to kind of share the difference and that change in perception from mindless to mindful. So I have to give my whole to this cryptic crossword because I'm not letting everybody get the answers before me. My spelling has improved, my ability to manage those complex problems, because it's not an easy cryptic crossword. And as I say, that connection that we do together as a family whilst we have dinner is really, really lovely. And I found actually I'm much brighter after we've done that than I would have been watching Emmerdale in a mindless activity. I think that kind of goes down to that total absorption. So my brain has to work differently and it leads to flow. And I think once you're in that flow, you're filling resilience in a different way. You're filling that cup in a different way. And I take that kind of whole perception of mindfulness. I love walking on the beaches and you know, we're quite creative, I suppose, in our family and trying to look for sea glass. My children, my youngster, well, I mean, they're children anymore, but my young adults that are my children make sea glass jewellery and thing. So you see me, my husband, the kids, when we're out walking, if we do get that chance together, trying to find a bit of red glass or that. Another really mindful kind of activity that allows you to be totally absorbed in something that's just not you're stepping off the hamster wheel, I suppose. So it's those types of activities. I've really looked at nature in detail. When my mum or folks would maybe say a good walk ruined, but I have my camera with me and I'm really taking lots of photographs because I love seeing nature unfold. And again, looking to compose, looking at the details on the walks and nature gets you into flow again, gets you in a different space. So it's that bit about being compassionate about yourself, you know. And the other day I was standing in the kitchen and I'm looking at this thing in my hand and I'm going, I know it's metal, I know it's got prongs, and I'm getting really frustrated with myself. And I'm just reminding myself that actually, Karen, it's okay. You're 51, you've got menopausal brain defuzzlement. I do know it's a fork, but at that moment in time, but instead of getting really frustrated with myself, I'm actually being compassionate and reminding myself I am 51, that is what's going on. But there's other times that I've recognised that my own sensory system is maybe on higher alert, and it's leading me to think, hang on, you need to be thinking about this. So, for example, the fridge at home drove me crazy, last summer, and nobody else could hear it, but that buzz followed me around the house. It was so annoying. I even went and laid out on a new Millie fridge. It wasn't really the fridge that was the problem. It was my probably my capacity in my own cup was too full to overflowing, and that my sensory system was trying to tell me you need to look at this differently. So I love my new fridge, by the way. That I was really quite pleased that I'd got a new fridge, Lydia. But again, it's listening to oneself and seeing that. So some of the things that I've kind of helped to again build that resilience, listening to oneself, total absorption. I've always tried to, and I've also now since lockdown been stacking into kind of common routines. So as I've shared, I love walking, but I've stacked on together with the walking, listening to podcasts. So the longer the podcast, the longer the walk. So I really love, I would give a wee call out here to Sarah Philp and Billy Burke's podcasts, which are fabulous, changing conversations. And, they talk with the kind of education influencers of the day, and they're really inspiring. But because I've stacked them when we walk, I'm getting this lovely hour-long walk in nature again. So that stacking process I would also throw out there, really, really good. And obviously listening to really inspiring folks talking. And sometimes I have to go for another walk in the afternoon because I've enjoyed it so much. I have to go and listen to it again to actually really think, oh, what could I take into school tomorrow? I would just add two more if I may take another little bit of time. So I've recognised this year that I really am a thinking person and that I need to keep learning. And while school's been full of risk assessments and we're doing all those kind of activities to support our school to maintain and its function as safely as possible, some of the CLPL things have reduced because we've had to kind of prioritise other things. But for my own again health and well-being, I've gone and joined an online book club. Now, I've never done that before. I always find reading quite difficult, although I do have my master's and thing, and I read for work, if you like. I like to work with a book. All my books are covered in hearts and stars and underlined. So I've joined the Scottish Educators Connect book group, and again I would throw that out there to folks. Facilitated by James Coop and Anita Tissue. It's just been absolutely fantastic. We've just finished Manifesto for Education by Griever, but the Brené Brown Dare to Lead really had a profound impact on me. And I think kind of meeting over 12 weeks with a group of professionals from a wide range of agencies, but all with that common bond of getting it right for children and to inspire their learning has been a huge connection for me. So, psychologists, speech and language therapists, teachers from all over Scotland. So that book group on a Monday night, for all it's been a really busy day, I don't find that a challenge at night. I find that is a very affirming process and things that, again, a real energising activity that helps fill my resilience cup. So I think the pandemic has really allowed us all to discuss our health and well-being, including as senior leaders. And I think we can do that without being shameful or embarrassed and think it's everybody else. I think we all need to own health and well-being, and I think that it's really important that we lead opening up that conversation. So it's been wonderful that we can speak today.
That's just amazing, Karen. So many of the things you've said make absolute sense, but just the amount of time that you've taken to get to know yourself, as you've mentioned, is really inspiring, and it's obviously having a great deal of payoff in terms of you've found things that are really affirming your own beliefs and in the important areas in your life, and that's just wonderful to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really do appreciate it. Can I just ask then, because those things that you've just shared are very personal and things that are particularly of interest to yourself, but in your role as primary deputy head, have you been able to see things that have been of support for pupils, learners, or for your staff in your setting?
Yeah, I think firstly I would just, want to put it out there that our staff have been absolutely amazing through this last year. Yeah. And we have been open all through this pandemic. We haven't closed our doors, and we've done that because of our wonderful staff that really have contributed above and beyond in many ways. And it's no mean feat working in a special school with youngsters, fabulous youngsters, and such a privilege to work with our youngsters. But most of our children have limited capacity to understand the kind of mitigation of the factors that we've put in place, and so they need us to interpret those for them. So it's all those things about making sure there's clarity in risk assessments, etc., to make sure that our staff are really clear about what needs to be put in. So there's consistency of approach to absolutely make sure that we're all doing the same thing, and that our children will therefore get the benefit of that, to enable them to come into school and to get the best out of what we can offer. I think Caroline, our executive head, has done a fantastic job of listening to staff and creating up a variety of groups to be able to hear, so that staff, all their comments are filtered through, and that impact on the risk assessment, because that one document is what helps us to maintain, as I say, our school being open to give the learning environment that our children need. But it also allows the families to have their time to build their own resilience when we have their children. So it's so important on so many levels that we can continue to provide our service. So really listening to staff, really hearing what their concerns are in the workplace, but also meeting staff where they are at. I think there's a really good little cartoon illustration that's going around on social media. It's the two dogs. I don't know whether you've seen it, Lydia, but there's one little wee, shall we say, a sausage dog, and there's for example, a Great Dane, and they've both walked through the same puddle. And that little wee sausage dog's right up to his nose and his ears in mud, and the Great Dane's hardly covering his paws. And I think it's such a good illustration of how life affects the same life, the same work, it affects us all very differently depending on where we're at. And I think it's really important, what we do and what I try and do every single day, is to meet colleagues with compassion, children with compassion, and families with compassion, because we don't know, that day they may be that little sausage dog that mud is right up to their ears, And I'm not here to fix that, but I am here to be able to support them in a way that helps them to continue to work and support our children, or to help our families to get what they need, whether that's resources or signposted to support, or whatever that is, to help folks get through the days and to look to brighter futures. And of course, when our staff are supported and are working together more, we can bring the changes together. We can make those changes. As it was, it's so important that we continue to build community, even though we are separate in our bubbles, that we still have that sense of community and that sense of trust in our community. So some of the things that we've done, our expressive arts partner Keith has been doing some videos, and advent calendar videos, and if you've not seen any, please go onto our website, our school website. Again, another really important factor in carrying on the message of positivity and hope, and sharing the learning that we're doing, and really promoting our abilities as learners here and not disabilities. Website is so therefore our website's kept up to date regularly. But we're doing this advent calendar, so each class has done their little skit, and those advent calendars are open up on our social media every day, and again that's bringing that lovely community back together. And all right, it's through a platform, but it's still doing that, and that's bringing that sense of well-being together. We're showing our abilities as children, so you'll see our children sitting on their little benches or pressing a Big Mac or whatever it is that they're doing. They're showing their skills within these little scenarios. And you know, for our staff, that translates to them, one, being really proud of their children, because as I say, we all are so privileged to be here, but also a sense of real satisfaction that they have supported their learners to gain those skills and to therefore show the ability of our children. And that brings that lovely Orchard Brae family together again. Again, as I say, meeting staff where they are, listening to staff. For some of our children, it's been really difficult. You know, we've got masks over mouth, and mouth for our very, very early complex learners is such an important place. It's where we attune, you know, in those very early years. You know, we know what a smile means, even the youngest of learners. But when they can't see it, it's so difficult. So whilst there are clear masks, etc., staff have had to be really creative in how they think about how do we attend to children so that they know we're attending to them when they can't see the obvious. We're not allowed to sing. And of course, what's the first thing you would do to a youngster that's maybe a 3-month-old, capacity is you would sing. You would have musicality in your voice and you would sing. So again, we've got rapping going on, and we've got rhythmic clapping, and you know, all those different ways and means to think about continuing connection, because it's at the absolute heart of health and well-being. It's at the heart of learning. It's the heart of relationship. So yeah, emotional first aid, done an awful lot of that recently, and really important that my staff know that my office is a safe place. Being able to support people to come out of some anxiety attacks, and just to bring some sense of calmness. So, you know, open door policies, even in COVID times, but you know, there's risks and mitigations in there. So I didn't think our toilets have ever been so clean, shall we say there. So, you know, there's some spin-offs everywhere. So, yeah, meeting everybody with compassion, as I say, and starting from there. And in our department, in my primary department, we have daily contact with our families through emails. We don't have a drop-off because our children are bussed into school. Yeah. So really important that our children obviously can't go home and see what's happened today, what's been brilliant about the day, or whether maybe what's been a little bit more challenging. So we're the facilitators there, and we email parents every single day. And I know that puts extra stress on my staff, but the reward to that is huge. So again, it's understanding and supporting when things get difficult if staff are not managing those things, but to continue to keep the relationships, which helps family keep their health and well-being as well. So yeah, challenging, but also there's some real silver linings in this, and I think we've got to not to lose or forget them. I think it's a time to build upon them as well.
Wow, well, my goodness, your absolute passion and your commitment and your compassion comes spilling through everything you're saying there, Karen, and I am sure beyond any doubt that your young people, your parents, carers and staff members are very, very grateful for the support and enthusiasm and wisdom that you're offering to them right now. So thank you again for sharing that. It's really lovely to hear. So just before we wrap up, out of all the things you've shared with us, and I'm so grateful that there have been so many and you've taken the time to do that with us, is there one sort of top tip that you would share with our listeners for looking after themselves? We know that we're coming up to the break, but beyond that, we'll be back to school again. Is there any one thing that you would be saying is wise and a good use of their time?
Yeah, and it's something very simple, and it's something that we all do, and it's amazing the influence it has on our body, and that is to quite simply breathe and to really learn how to do it properly. And again, this last couple of years, I've done a lot of meditation and and just it's part of my routine. But the difference in my rest and heart rate, because I've learned how to breathe properly, has just been wonderful. So I would throw that out there. It might sound silly, but go and try it. And when you really breathe deep down into your tummy and let all that, all the muscles begin to breathe themselves as well, the difference is wonderful. And isn't it fabulous that we can take that wherever we go and into every situation we're in? And again, it helps that body to remain calm, gain control, and fully accessible for everybody. So there's my top tip.
Well, thank you once again. And Karen, you've mentioned the word privilege quite a few times throughout this wee chat we've been having. And can I just say that I absolutely feel privileged to have listened to you today. And I'm sure anyone listening into this recording will feel exactly the same way. So on their behalf and my own, I'd like to say one last very heartfelt thank you for sharing your thoughts and your time with us today, Karen. I'm really very grateful indeed.
And thank you to you for facilitating this for us and for Aberdeen City. Thank you, Lydia.
You're very welcome.